Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're doing something pretty interesting. We're taking this really ancient philosophy, Stoicism, and we're going to see how it applies like right now in these super high pressure situations. Think financial trading or competitive poker, places where, losing your cool means losing actual money instantly.
Exactly. It's not just theory. We're looking at Stoicism almost like a tool for performance,
Yeah.
a real competitive edge. And our main source material for this dive, it's this amazing conversation
Hmm.
between Titus Adeodatus, he's an author, philosopher, and his poker mentor, a guy named Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this chat, it really gets to the heart of it. How do you stay rational when the pressure's really on, when mistakes cost you, right there and then, publicly even?
Right. Like there's no hiding.
None. It's like finding the operating system for your mind under fire.
Right.
That's what we're digging into.
Okay, before we jump into that conversation itself, maybe we should quickly lay out Titus's background, his main ideas.
Good idea. It definitely sets the stage. So he's written a couple of key books that really fuse different disciplines together.
First one is Stoic Samurai, right? Which sounds intense.
It is. And the title says it all, really. He blends classical Stoicism, the focus on virtue, reason, controlling your responses, with the Japanese Bushido code.
Code of the Samurai. Discipline, honor.
Exactly. Discipline, honor in adversity, rationality when things are chaotic. It's about taking Stoicism out of, let's say, quiet contemplation and putting it into action under duress. It's not enough to just think about being virtuous.
Yeah.
You have to be virtuous when it's hard.
Okay, so it's practical, applied philosophy from the get-go.
Precisely. And that leads straight into his second big concept, which is in his book, The Way of the Stoic Diamond.
The Stoic Diamond. I like that analogy. Why a diamond, specifically?
Well, think about what a diamond is. It's the hardest substance we know, right? Almost indestructible.
Yeah.
And the Stoics aimed for something similar in character, apatheia. Not apathy, like not caring.
Right, that's a common mistake.
Yeah, it's more like freedom from being ruled by destructive emotions. Indestructibility of your inner calm, your reason.
Okay.
But diamonds aren't just found like that. They're forged deep down under immense heat and pressure.
So the hardship actually creates the strength.
That's the core idea. Hardship refines you, strengthens you. So for Titus, and for us looking at this conversation, the Stoic Diamond mindset means you don't just endure pressure or hardship. You actually kind of welcome it.
You seek it out.
In a way,
Oh.
you see it as the necessary process to forge that unbreakable character.
Yeah.
So our dive today is really about watching this philosophy get hammered into shape in the real world,
Yeah.
the trading floor, the poker table, high heat, high pressure.
All right, let's get into that conversation between Titus and Norman. The setup itself is pretty revealing. Titus shows up for his lesson, but he says he's running on very little sleep.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. Most people would cancel, right? Or at least apologize profusely, make excuses.
Definitely. Oh, I'm not going to be at my best today.
But Titus does the opposite. He acknowledges it. Okay, I'm tired. This will be a challenging lesson. But he frames it as an opportunity,
An opportunity? How so?
as an exercise in self-mastery. Like this fatigue, it's a challenge. Good. Let's see if I can maintain focus and discipline despite it. He's actively using his compromised state as, like, resistance training for his mind.
Okay, that is pure stoicism in action, isn't it? Accepting what's happened, the lack of sleep, and immediately thinking, how can I use this?
Exactly. It's not an obstacle to the work. The fatigue becomes part of the work. It's about training the will under less than ideal conditions. If you can perform rationally when you're tired, think how much stronger your baseline rationality is when you're rested.
That makes sense. And he immediately connects this kind of mental training to his trading, right? He mentions trading treasury bonds.
He does. He says he'd recently been stopped out of a trade.
Can you quickly explain what stopped out means for listeners who might not be familiar with trading talk?
Sure. It basically means you set up an automatic order beforehand. If the price of whatever you're trading moves against you and hits a certain price, your predefined maximum loss point, the system automatically closes your position.
So it's a safety net designed to limit your losses.
It is. It's
Yeah.
a risk management tool. But it still means you lost money on that specific trade. The outcome was negative.
Okay, and this is where the Stoic viewpoint really kicks in, looking at that loss.
Right. Because the normal human reaction to being stopped out, to losing money, is frustration.
Yeah.
Maybe anger, self-doubt, I messed up, the market's unfair, whatever.
Yeah, you take it personally.
Exactly. But Titus, guided by this Stoic framework, reframes it completely. It's not a failure. It's not bad luck. It's feedback.
Feedback from the market.
Yes, essential feedback.
The loss is framed as instruction.
Nature or fate or just the reality of the market is telling you something.
Okay, I really want to linger on this idea, treating a loss as feedback. Because like you said, it goes against every instinct. How does someone, a trader, a potent player, anyone in a high-stakes situation actually do that in the moment, when the loss feels real and painful?
It's all about shifting your focus. You have to consciously move your attention away from the outcome the money lost,
Hmm.
which is external and now in the past, and onto the process that led to it.
So analyzing the why.
Precisely. Why did the stop loss get hit? Was my initial analysis flawed? Was the entry point wrong? Was my timing off? Did I misjudge the risk level? Or was it just random market noise that happened to hit my stop even though my process was sound?
Hmm.
The market gives you the correction. The loss is basically the tuition fee for that lesson. The key is separating your ego, your sense of self-worth, from your capital. You have to look at the decision-making process objectively.
That sounds like pure Epictetus. What happens to you isn't the issue, it's how you react to it. The outcome is external, the response is internal.
You got it. That's the core principle applied directly to the trading screen or the poker felt. You control your analysis, your decisions, your emotional response. You don't control the market fluctuation or the turn of the card.
And this ability to reframe loss, to control the internal response, is crucial because these fields, trading and poker, they share some really intense mental demands. Titus and Norman talk about a triple demand, right?
Yes, exactly. 3 core psychological pillars you absolutely need to have if you want to survive, let alone thrive, in these environments where uncertainty is the only certainty.
Okay, what are they?
First is endurance through uncertainty. You have to be able to act rationally, make good decisions, even when you know that a good decision doesn't guarantee a good outcome. It's probabilistic. You have to tolerate that ambiguity, that waiting, without cracking.
That constant not knowing.
Right. Second, you need emotional control despite financial losses. This is huge. You cannot let the inevitable downswings, the losses, derail your emotional state or your rational thinking. Your self-worth can't be tied to your account balance.
Easier said than done, I imagine.
Absolutely. It takes constant practice. And the third demand is the relentless pursuit of mastery through rational feedback, which ties back to what we just discussed. If you let losses make you angry or scared, you shut down your ability to learn from them. You have to use the feedback, constantly adjust, constantly improve.
So these 3 things, endurance, emotional control, learning from feedback, they're all linked if one
The
fails.
whole thing collapses.
Yeah.
If you lose emotional control after a loss, you can't learn from the feedback, and your endurance becomes pointless suffering because you're just repeating mistakes. If you can't endure uncertainty, you'll make impulsive bad decisions out of anxiety.
Which do they suggest is the toughest part? Is it dealing with the constant uncertainty or is it the sting of the actual financial loss?
That's a great question. Based on their conversation, it feels like the uncertainty is the background radiation you have to live with constantly. But the financial loss is the acute shock. It's the moment where the negative outcome becomes real and tangible. That's when the emotions, the Stoics called it pathos, passion, are most likely to surge and overwhelm your reason.
So the loss is the trigger point for potential disaster.
Yeah. So maintaining emotional control specifically in the face of loss is probably the most critical and maybe the hardest challenge. Get that wrong, and the other 2 pillars don't matter much.
And this focus on learning, on using feedback, connects to another Stoic idea they bring up, continuous improvement. Titus says something like, you can always progress, there is never a plateau.
That's prokope, the Greek term for progress, specifically moral progress towards wisdom. But it applies perfectly here. The idea that you've made it or mastered trading or poker is dangerous.
Why dangerous? Isn't mastery the goal?
Mastery as a process is the goal, but thinking you've reached a final state of mastery is a trap. Markets change. Opponents adapt. The moment you think, I've got this figured out, you stop questioning yourself, you stop learning, you become complacent. And in these fields, complacency gets punished fast.
So the pursuit itself is the point, not reaching some imaginary finish line.
Exactly. Can you expand on how that prokope applies? Like, what does continuous improvement look like for an experienced trader?
Right.
It's not just learning the basics anymore.
Right. It's infinite refinement. Maybe you've mastered reading charts for a specific setup. Okay, great. Now, can you master your psychological reaction when that reliable setup fails 5 times in a row? That's a different skill.
I see.
Or can you handle the mental pressure of trading 10 times the size you're used to? The numbers on the screen are bigger, the potential losses feel heavier, even if the strategy's the same. That requires recalibration. You have to master managing larger amounts of capital, processing information faster, dealing with more sophisticated opponents or market dynamics. The external environment is always throwing new challenges at you, which forces you to continuously upgrade your internal framework, your discipline, your focus, your emotional control.
So the complexity of the outside world actually drives the need for endless internal development.
That's it. The market's volatility guarantees that your work on your own character, your own reason, is never truly done. There's always another level of refinement needed. Okay, let's move into the next part, which deals with some really practical, almost harsh realities of trying to climb the ranks in these fields. Norman brings up a big one,
Yeah.
the problem of using your winnings to pay your bills. He calls it a limitation of necessity.
Yeah, and this is a critical point where the philosophy slams right into financial reality. It's a huge obstacle for developing players or traders.
Why is it so detrimental? I mean, obviously it's stressful if you need the money, but how does it impact the actual learning and decision-making process Norman and Titus are focused on?
Because it contaminates everything. If losing this trade or this poker session means you might not make rent, well, suddenly the stakes aren't just financial, they're existential.
Right. It changes the game completely.
Completely.
Yeah.
Your brain isn't focused purely on making the most rational plus EV, positive expected value decision anymore. It shifts into survival mode. You start playing with scared money.
Scares money.
Yeah. Money you absolutely cannot afford to lose. And when you play with scared money, two bad things tend to happen. Either you become paralyzed by fear, too risk-averse, missing good opportunities because you're terrified of any loss,
Okay.
or you become desperate and overly aggressive. You start forcing things, trying to hit some magic number to cover your expenses, taking huge risks you know you shouldn't. Both paths lead away from rational play.
So the financial pressure directly undermines the emotional control and rational feedback loop we were just talking about.
Absolutely. Norman's point is that you need a buffer. You need to separate your trading or playing capital from your essential living expenses. Create a firewall so that the inevitable losses within the game don't trigger that survival panic. Prudence isn't just about managing risk, it's about protecting your mental state.
Titus touches on this when he talks about moving up to higher stakes. He says, I need to get used to the new money on the table. That sounds like it's not just about having a bigger bankroll, but something psychological.
It is. It's about psychological calibration. The meaning of the money has to change. A $1,000 loss has to feel emotionally the same way a $100 loss felt at the lower stakes, just information, not a catastrophe. Your mind has to adjust so the sheer size of the numbers doesn't trigger fear or greed impulses.
And finding that balance, being ready for bigger stakes without being reckless, that's what they call prudent risk, right?
Exactly. It's navigating that fine line. You can't jump up impulsively before you're psychologically and financially ready. That's recklessness. But you also can't stay stuck at lower levels out of fear. When your skills and bankroll actually justify moving up, that's timidity, and you miss out on growth.
How do you calibrate that? How do you know when you're ready?
Well, part of it is the financial buffer Norman mentioned, but psychologically, it involves preparation. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, or negative visualization.
So imagining the worst.
Kind of. You mentally rehearse taking that bigger loss. You visualize a trade going against you significantly at the higher stakes, or losing a big pot. You practice accepting that possibility intellectually before it happens, so that when it inevitably does occur, it's processed as an expected part of the variance, not an emotional shock.
That preparation sounds very Seneca, very classical Stoic.
It absolutely is. Seneca warned against both extremes, rushing into things recklessly, temerity, and shrinking from necessary challenges out of fear, cowardice. Both stem from irrational attachments, either attachment to a huge win or attachment to absolute safety. Wisdom, Seneca would say, guides you to the middle path, courage, which in this context means taking calculated, prudent risks when you are genuinely prepared, both financially and mentally.
And Norman's advice is the practical application of that wisdom. Only move up when you have enough resources, enough of that buffer to handle the potential losses without letting it mess with your head.
Precisely. That buffer is like armor for your rational mind. It protects you from the tyranny of necessity, allowing you to focus on making good decisions. Without it, you're vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what specifically? What's the big danger zone they identify?
The danger is falling prey to pathos, those destructive emotions. And the classic textbook example they discuss is the urge to move up to chase losses.
Ugh, the dreaded tilt and chase. Tell me more about why that happens and why it's so bad. It seems like the ultimate breakdown of rationality.
It really is. Chasing losses happens when you take a bad beat or make a mistake, lose some money, and your ego just can't handle it. You feel this urgent need to win it back.
Immediately. So it's driven by frustration, impatience.
All of the above. Frustration, impatience, maybe some wounded pride, maybe greed, thinking you can just get it back quick at higher stakes where the wins are bigger. But what you're doing is abandoning your strategy. You're no longer playing your game. You're playing purely on emotion.
And what does that look like in practice? Bigger bets? Riskier plays?
Yeah, typically you start increasing your bet sizes, playing hands or taking trades you normally wouldn't, ignoring your own risk management rules. You're basically gambling on hope and anger instead of making calculated decisions based on your edge.
Norman actually shares a story about this from his early days, doesn't he? Losing his first significant winnings.
He does. It's a classic cautionary tale.
Yep.
He had a good run, built up some winnings, probably felt a bit overconfident, then hit a rough patch. Instead of sticking to his game plan, maybe taking a break,
He chased.
he chased. Got frustrated, felt the pressure to recover the losses, maybe played looser, maybe moved up stakes too soon, and predictably ended up losing not just the recent losses, but all his previous winnings too.
Ouch. That's a hard lesson.
A very hard lesson, but it perfectly illustrates how that emotional impulse, I got to win it back and now W, is a direct path to greater losses. The real loss isn't just the money, it's the complete loss of rational judgment. That's the catastrophe.
It brings us right back to that core theme of emotional equanimity, Epictetus again. It's not what happens to you, but how you react.
Exactly. The loss happens, that's external. The market does what it does. Cards fall how they fall. The reaction, the frustration, the tilt, the decision to chase, that's internal. And that is where your control lies.
So how does the Stoic practitioner catch themselves before going down that chasing rabbit hole?
The absolute first step is self-awareness. You have to learn to recognize the signs of emotional tilt in yourself. What does it feel like? Maybe your heart rate picks up. Maybe your jaw clenches. You feel restless. You feel that urge to just click buttons or throw chips in.
The physical tells.
Right. You have to notice those signals, step back mentally for a second, and identify it. Okay, I'm feeling tilted right now. Pathos is knocking at the door. Once you recognize it, then you can apply reason logos. You can consciously override the impulse, take a deep breath, maybe walk away for a bit, and force yourself back to your disciplined strategy.
So it's almost like treating your own emotional state as another data point. Market is down X points. My internal state is tilted. Okay, manage the internal state first.
That is a fantastic way to put it. Yes,
Yeah.
you observe the passion without becoming the passion. Your reason acts as the internal regulator, the thermostat, keeping the system stable regardless of whether the external environment is stormy or calm. That's the essence of the training.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the timeline involved. Because becoming this kind of rational, emotionally controlled operator, it doesn't happen overnight, right? Norman gives some pretty realistic estimates about how long it takes to level up.
Yeah, and his timelines really underscore the need for patience. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's about cultivating virtue and skill over time, which is very much in line with Stoic thought.
So what kind of time frames are we talking about?
Well, he breaks it down. He suggests that if you're working on improving within familiar levels, meaning stakes or complexity you're already comfortable with, just trying to refine things, plug small leaks,
Okay.
you can probably make noticeable progress within about a month of focused, high-quality effort. This is like polishing your existing skills.
But that changes dramatically when you're trying to move up to higher, unfamiliar level.
Oh, absolutely. The estimate jumps significantly. To successfully make the leap and stabilize at a significantly higher level of play or trading, he suggests it could take anywhere from 6 months to a full year of sustained, dedicated work.
Wow. Okay. Why such a big difference?
Because moving up isn't just about doing the same things with bigger numbers. You're often facing fundamentally different challenges. The players might be much better, the market dynamics more complex, the speed faster. You're not just refining, you're often having to build entirely new mental models, new strategies. And critically, you have to unlearn habits that worked at the lower levels but might actually get you crushed at the higher ones.
Yeah.
That process of adaptation, of internalizing new patterns, of building confidence in a tougher environment, that just takes time and repetition. You need exposure, you need to experience the variance, you need to fail and learn.
So you really can't just like cram for a week and expect to succeed at a level that's way above your current experience.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And Norman points out the dangers of pacing here. move up too fast before you're truly ready and you're likely to get overwhelmed, lose confidence, lose your bankroll, you introduce instability. But move too slow, stay in your comfort zone for too long when you're ready, and you're wasting potential. You're not challenging yourself enough to grow.
Finding that rational mean again. How does the Stoic mindset help manage that tension between patience and ambition? It feels like you need to be patient, but not passive.
That's a great way to put it. It connects to the virtue of justice specifically, being just to yourself in your own development.
Yeah.
You need to make a rational assessment of your readiness based on evidence, your results, your understanding, your emotional stability, your bankroll.
Okay.
Jumping too early and getting crushed is, in a way, unjust to the effort you've put in so far. But waiting too long out of fear, missing out on the compounded growth you could be achieving, is also unjust to your potential.
So the waiting period isn't passive at all. It's active preparation.
Exactly. It's filled with intense study, deliberate practice, maybe taking small shots at the next level to test the waters, gather information, and refine your skills, all while ensuring your foundation remains solid. The progress has to be measured, guided by reason, not impulse.
This idea of building a solid foundation connects nicely to another point they make. Mastery or skill kind of compounds over time. Norman uses an analogy like video games or education.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. Once you've truly mastered, say, level 5 in a game, even if you move on to level 10, going back to level 5 feels easy, right?
Yeah.
You don't completely forget those fundamental skills.
Okay.
Or think about learning math. Once you understand algebra, it makes calculus accessible. The earlier knowledge provides the foundation.
Okay, I see that.
The skills build on each other.
Okay.
And that fundamental capacity you develop doesn't just disappear if you take a break or face a setback. It's embedded.
And this applies to the Stoic virtues as well. The emotional control, the rational analysis.
Absolutely. This is the Stoic compound effect. Every time you successfully apply reason under pressure, every time you choose equanimity over tilt, every time you learn from feedback instead of getting defensive, you're strengthening that muscle.
You're deepening the groove, so to speak.
Exactly. You're making it easier and more automatic to respond rationally the next time. It compounds. The progress isn't linear. It accelerates as the foundations become stronger.
Can we break down what that looks like practically for, say, a trader? What does compounded Stoic skill give them?
Okay, well, think about pattern recognition. A novice trader might make the same emotional mistake, like revenge trading after a loss 10 times before they even realize it's a pattern. A trader with compounded Stoic awareness will recognize the urge to make that mistake the first time it arises. They'll feel that flicker of anger or frustration and immediately think, there's that impulse, not falling for it. They intercept it with reason before it leads to action.
So they short-circuit the error?
Precisely. They don't have to relearn basic self-control every single day. That rational response becomes more ingrained, more of a default setting. This frees up immense cognitive resources. Instead of spending half their mental energy battling internal demons, they can dedicate almost all of it to analyzing the external market, finding opportunities, managing risk effectively. Their baseline level of performance, their floor, is permanently raised.
That sounds like a huge advantage. Just knowing that the work you put into managing your reactions today isn't just for today, but it actually builds a stronger foundation for all future challenges.
It's incredibly powerful. It shifts the focus from just chasing results to building character. The financial success becomes ideally a natural consequence of that deep internal commitment to reason and discipline. It's building the diamond, piece by piece.
Okay, this final section we're diving into feels really important, especially today with all the talk about hustle culture and just grinding things out. Norman makes this incredibly sharp distinction. He says, it doesn't always go quicker if I go 12 hours a day. It only goes quicker if I play well those 12 hours.
That insight is pure gold. It cuts right through the noise about just putting in the hours. It draws a critical line between productive, disciplined work and just being busy.
Blind exertion, maybe.
Exactly. Blind exertion. It's not the quantity of time spent staring at a screen or sitting at a table that matters most.
Yeah.
It's the quality of your focus, your decision-making, your learning during that time.
So 12 hours of tired, sloppy, tilted play is actually worse than 4 hours of sharp, focused, rational play.
Much worse. Because in those 12 sloppy hours, you're not just failing to make progress. You're actively reinforcing bad habits. You're generating garbage data in your mind, potentially damaging your confidence and digging yourself into a deeper hole.
This sounds a lot like Marcus Aurelius. Didn't he write about working with intention, with purpose, not just endlessly?
Absolutely. It's a direct parallel. Aurelius emphasized working well, working with wisdom, focusing on the task at hand with diligence and rationality. Do less, better, was his advice. He wasn't advocating laziness. He was advocating effectiveness over mere activity. Norman's point is the same. Quality trumps quantity. Things like rest, taking breaks, self-reflection, ensuring you're mentally and physically prepared. These aren't signs of weakness. They're essential components of sustained, high-quality performance. Pushing yourself when you're genuinely past your cognitive limit just leads to errors.
And those errors actively slow you down in the long run.
Right. Because you have to spend time fixing them, undoing the damage, rebuilding confidence. It's inefficient.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because the sources seem to show a bit of a tension, or maybe just a different emphasis, between Norman's approach and Titus's approach on this.
Yes, there's a fascinating nuance there. It highlights that even within Stoicism, there can be different paths or emphasis.
Right. So you've got Norman's approach, which seems very much about discipline through balance, calibration, efficiency. He's the voice saying, rest improves performance, don't burn yourself out. Find the optimal way to sustain quality effort.
hmm Norman represents that pragmatic, optimized Stoicism. Respect the limits of the human system, body and mind, to achieve the best long-term results. Maximize rational output by managing input, including rest.
But then you have Titus's approach. He's the one showing up sleep-deprived, remember? He seems to embrace the exhaustion, almost seek out the endurance test as a way to find meaning, to transcend limitations. He's pushing the limits, not optimizing within them.
That's a great observation. Titus definitely leans into a more ascetic, perhaps even cynic-influenced interpretation at times, using discomfort, fatigue, hardship as direct tools to forge the will, to prove his detachment from physical ease.
But isn't there a risk there? If you're deliberately seeking exhaustion, aren't you flirting with the very inefficiency and error-proneness that Norman warns against? Doesn't true Stoic wisdom involve recognizing limits, like Norman suggests, rather than constantly pushing against them just for the sake of pushing?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it highlights the sophistication here. Yes, there's absolutely a risk in Titus's approach. The risk of burnout, the risk of making terrible decisions due to fatigue, the risk of valuing the struggle more than the rational outcome.
Okay.
However, his method serves a specific, crucial purpose in the context of building that Stoic diamond. He's stress-testing the system. He's finding the absolute floor of his rational capacity. He's proving to himself, even under these conditions, even when I'm compromised, I can still maintain discipline. I can still follow my process.
Okay, so it's like finding the breaking point, or rather proving you don't break easily.
Exactly. If Norman represents the path of optimized reason, how to perform at your best consistently, Titus represents the path of tested reason, proving your reason holds up even at its worst.
And ideally, you need both.
I think that's the synthesis, yes. You need to know you can endure hardship and remain rational, Titus's test. But then you need the wisdom to structure your life and your work so you're not constantly operating in that state of depletion, allowing for optimized high-quality performance most of the time, Norman's strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. So whether you're approaching it like Titus, by embracing the immediate discomfort, or like Norman, by strategically managing energy and risk, the underlying goal is identical.
Absolutely identical. The specific environment, poker, trading, philosophy, anything demanding, is just the training ground. The real purpose is forging a will, a faculty of judgment that remains clear, focused, and rational regardless of the pressure, whether that pressure comes from fatigue, financial loss, uncertainty, or emotional triggers.
It all comes back to that first theme, mastery through adversity, using challenges not just as things to overcome, but as the very tools that shape you.
That's it. The diamond doesn't become a diamond by avoiding pressure. It holds firm. Whether the stress is the dull ache of exhaustion or the sharp shock of a margin call, reason prevails. Hashtag outro. So wrapping this all up, if we distill this whole deep dive, this conversation between Titus the philosopher and Norman the poker mentor, it really offers more than just tips for traders or players. It's like a practical guide for living with resilience in any demanding area of life.
Yeah, it feels very applicable. We can probably boil it down to, 5 key Stoic takeaways?
I think so. 5 core lessons seem to emerge pretty clearly.
Okay, first, we definitely landed on mastery through adversity. That foundational idea that you don't shy away from challenges, you actually use them intentionally to train your mind, to train your rational will.
Exactly. Second, the importance of reframing setbacks as the feedback of fate. Losses, mistakes, things not going your way, they aren't punishments. They're just information, data from reality telling you where you need to adjust your judgment or expectations.
hmm Third, crucial for those high stakes moments is cultivating emotional equanimity. Remembering that real freedom, real control, comes from managing your internal reaction, your response, not from trying to control external outcomes you can't dictate, staying rational, avoiding panic or tilt.
Spot on. Fourth is that commitment to continuous improvement, the Prokope, accepting that there's no finish line, no final plateau. Mastery is an ongoing process of refinement, of learning, of adapting. And that progress compounds, building on itself.
Right, the Stoic compound effect. And finally, number 5, the idea of measured risk. Acting with courage, which means acting rationally and wisely in the face of fear or uncertainty, not being reckless, but not being paralyzed either, making decisions based on reason and preparation, respecting your actual capacity.
Those 5 points really capture the essence of it. What this conversation demonstrates so powerfully is that pursuing virtue developing discipline, reason, equanimity isn't just some abstract philosophical goal. It's actually the most practical strategy for effective action and long-term success in complex, high-pressure environments. It's self-management at the deepest level.
So the final question then maybe is for you listening. Where are you currently actively living Stoicism? Maybe without even calling it that. Where in your own life, your work, your relationships, your personal goals, are you facing real pressure, real risk, maybe fatigue or uncertainty? Think about that specific area, because that is your proving ground. That's the place demanding you develop that Stoic Diamond mindset we've been talking about, the resilience forged and refined by the very pressures you encounter every day. Where is that happening for you right now?
That's where the real growth lies.
Welcome. I have a pocket lesson that starts very soon. I want to introduce to you my 2 philosophical books that I have written before the lesson. Then I will have my lesson with my poker teacher. Let me show you my 4th and my 5th book, the only books I managed to edit. This is my 4th book. It was written in French. Here you have the translation. The title of the book is A Stoic Samurai. This is my 5th book, the last one that I published very recently, the German version, the French version, the version I've written it in, the English version, the translation for that book. It is called The Way of the Stoic Diamond. This lesson will be quite challenging because I haven't slept a lot. I managed to doze off like 1 hour before our lesson, or a little more, not much more. I'm not sure how much I can do. I hope I will wake up during the lesson. It will be fine. It will be for me a challenging lesson. For once, my poker teacher is a little late.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, hello Norman. How are you doing?
I am good. Sorry to keep you waiting. You see, I'm not every time the time. Sometimes I'm late as well.
No worries.
But I do notice the light's quite distracting. I didn't think about it beforehand. Well, hopefully fine for today.
Traveling? Or are you still at home?
I'm home. I'm doing the standing desk thing.
Okay, that's nice. I should do the same because I have slept only little. It will be a little challenging for me today, but I try to do my best. I hope I wake up during the lesson.
Great. This week I haven't read more from your books.
I liked our last discussion around the book. When you have new stuff to share with me, don't hesitate. Do you have something on your mind?
Not at the moment. Maybe
Okay.
you will bring up a topic or something.
No, I don't have anything special on my mind too.
How are you doing overall with the new markets and everything?
The new markets, what's new about them?
Well, you started trading new commodities.
I did get stop out on my trade on treasury bonds. I'm waiting to see how it develops when the moment arrives to take a new one. I feel good around the markets. I still am going in the right direction. I hope that everything improves with time. It's a little like the same with poker. When you feel that you did get enough feedback from the market or the poker table, you then can go to the next level. It always implies taking more risk. Since the variance of your results can be extreme, you always have to be skeptical before you start increasing risk. That's the nice thing, is you can always progress. There's never a plateau. You can always become better at what you do. A lot of people, they are in boring jobs, even if it's the kind of jobs people want, like being a doctor. Once you have managed to be a doctor, once you have passed the exams, then it's more or less always the same during your entire life. Unless you do some research, you become a Nobel Prize of medicine, there's not much way to improve it. You just keep doing the same thing. When you're a poker player, there's room for improvement. In the markets, there's always a lot of room for improvement. It should be obvious since I haven't made a couple of 100 millions. There's a lot of improvement possible.
Well, with poker, I would say one thing I've thought about holding me back is everything I make in a month. Big part of that I will spend on living expenses. That really holds back moving up so much. To me, that is the difficulty. Once that's covered, that's not a problem. Then the difficulty is getting lazy and not finding motivation to do more. I found that it's a two-way issue. On one hand, the development seems slow if a lot of the money goes to expenses. On the other hand, when I get outside of point where I don't have to worry about monthly expenses in this way, I could start playing for much that it's easier to save a bigger portion of it because the amounts are bigger. If my expenses don't rise too much, then the amount that I will be able to take over from the profits to the next month will be greater and greater. It could get progressively move upwards very quickly. I found that at that moment, it's very difficult for me to keep up the motivation. Either I'll start spending more, which is one thing. The other thing is I just feel less motivated to try so hard or work as much. At least from my experience, that feels like the thing that's holding back that exponential growth. I feel like a big part of that is what I tried explaining now, essentially.
I understood it up to a certain point. For me, the thing is, I want enough time that I'm sure that I'm ready for taking more risk. I need to get used with the new money on the table, because it's one thing to tell yourself on that trade, I lose so much. If certainly because you went to the next level, it's a lot more. Then you have psychologically, you have to still be able to do exactly the same, not face a barrier where you tell yourself, I'd rather jump the trade just because I don't want to take the risk. That would be bad, because if I start jumping those trades, those might be the winning trades that I need. I need to be capable from psychologically to do it even with more money on the table.
In some way, I sympathize with that if I move up to next level, everything seems bigger, can take time to get used to. It has never been too much of a mental block for me because I would not allow myself to move up before I've made a lot. Essentially, I move up when I am more well off. I have more to lose in a way. The losing doesn't feel usually as bad when I move up at the time. The issues have been when I try to move up too soon, or the biggest issues have been times where I have tried to move up to take care of losses. That's the biggest mental problems I've had to fix over the years. I remember when I made my first 1K in poker, I was very proud of that. Then it dropped down to something like 800. I was frustrated that once the day ended, I was playing some 200 or something sit and goes. I ended the day with something like 400 or 300. If I had just accepted a little setback, it would have been fine. I just tried to get back to where I was at that moment. I was acting emotionally, probably just clicking gambling at that moment. That's really where I've had the bigger issues with that. In general, usually if I go from, let's say, a $50 game to a $100 game, it happens when I've won so much in the $50 game. At the $100 game, even though it's double, doesn't seem like such a big difference in that. Let's say I do badly there, lose 5 binds, I'll maybe move down after that. 5 binds, there's just 10 binds in a lower limit. In poker, at least, I feel like it works quite well in this regard. Just to share some of my personal experience.
It's interesting, thank you. One final question on the subject. If you have to put a number, now I know that it really matters on a lot of circumstances. It can be quite short from time to time. other levels take way more time. So how long would you normally think you need? 6 months? 1 or 2 years? What is the amount you would put on going to the next level in general if you have to make an average out of it? I don't think it's every 2 days or every 2 weeks. What would you
Yeah.
put on it?
I guess the first way my mind starts to solve that question is, what would I set for myself as a goal to get to the next level? I guess it depends. Usually I would want to win at least, first thing that comes to mind is 20 binds. That's not really true. That would be too little for me to move up usually. I'd like there to be a goal in terms of how many binds to win. That's where I run into this issue that usually I've won way more binds than that goal would be. The issue just is that I'm taking part of the money off each month to live from poker. That means it's kind of like on this level, take money off. Usually it would take quite a lot of months, really. It depends on many things, how hard I'm working. The great thing about it is I have been in times in my life, there's been a few times where I've been financially more irresponsible. I had to start over more or less. The great news is when starting over, it goes way quickly. It's just like in a computer game. If you're used to a certain level, have to play the first levels again, they will feel very easy. Imagine you had to go back to school in 5th grade or 6th grade or 7th grade. It probably would be not too difficult. I don't start with the first level. I've not been in such a big financial difficulty. You have to start from the very first level again. Still sometimes have to go multiple levels down and go back from that. That's one thing, that if it's a level I've already gone through, then it's much easier really, because then I feel like it's just a matter of putting in the hours. The hours could be, let's think about it, like in a $1 tournament, a $2 tournament. Ideally, if for $100 tournament, I have $100 bankroll to start with. That's 100 binds. Then ideally for a $2 tournament, which could be next level, I would have $200. That's a lot, really. That's 100 binds. That takes a lot of time. If I knew I had the skills, I wouldn't grind out 100 binds. Let's say I won 15 or 20 binds. I feel like I'm doing well in level 1. I would just invest more to get quicker to level 2. Not spend much time trying to get that 100 binds in that level. 100 is extreme. Usually it would be more like you have 50. You try to win 50 binds. That would be more usual in that way. To win 50 binds, a lot comes down to how hard I work, how hard I can work. The tricky thing with poker is it doesn't always go quicker if I go 12 hours a day. It only goes quicker if I play well those 12 hours. There's been times where I've earned more spending less time on poker, more time on just sleeping, resting, taking care of myself. And the quality of it's kind of like mass producing something or doing quality work. That quality work can be better than a lot of time, lower level work. That being said, usually the more hours, the quicker it would go if I really put my effort to do those hours well. Let's say I was going at it full days. How long would it take to get those 50 binds? I guess it would take like a month. I feel like it would take a month in a level I've already gone through. In a level I feel like I'm multiple levels higher than that. If it was like a level I'm currently struggling on, or that's very close to my level, there the funny thing is it could take forever. It's very tough to know, because if you haven't proven yourself to go through the level, it can be very different times. When I'm first in a level, my experience has been that the longest was when I started. For me, it was my first level. I was putting all my free time into it. I was doing school at the time, during lunch breaks, between classes, when I went home, when I was about to sleep, sometimes even during lessons. I was just overly consumed with poker. It's still just first level kept on being impossible for me for more than 6 months, something less than a year maybe. Tough to say exactly how long now. I usually say 6 months. Now that about it, maybe 6 months was like that really big effort. There was a little more time before that as well. For me, that's been the longest time to get through a new level that I'm actively working on and putting a lot of effort in to get through. If I nowadays went to the highest level I can possibly play in, I don't know if I could get through it in 6 months, because I'd hope so. I'm trying to improve in these ways. The issue with poker is because it's competition. I never like really when there's sports and then someone loses and the commentator goes, tell me, why did you lose? What went wrong today? Something doesn't have to go wrong. It's just the other person was better or knows more or is whatever, is faster, smarter, stronger, anything. I feel like in poker that can sound like an excuse. In general, in my mind, if it's a level I've gone through before and it's like a level I know I can beat, then it's 1 month. If it's a newer, like a really big challenge, it would take, who knows, it could take many months, could take a year, could take even longer. Although now that I think about, usually when I've been stuck longer, I have been stuck longer in levels. It's not like if I had moved up a level every 6 months, I would be already the top of the poker world. There has been long times staying stuck or falling back and trying to make it back. It's just that I feel like when it's been longer or when there's been setbacks, often I'd like to say something like life gets in the way. And I've been occupied with something else. Maybe just had a very sad year or something where I didn't feel like working, or I had some substance abuse problem, or I wanted to travel a lot, or just was spending too much, wasn't smart financially. Usually I feel like these are the things that have been holding me back. And I guess that's true for everyone, really. Everyone struggles with these things. If I feel like I have a good schedule, I'm enjoying, I'm putting in quality work, I'm really trying my hardest, and I'm really trying to be present and not just trying to play every hand like it's my last hand and give it my best effort. Now, I would think that maybe like for a difficult level, maybe I would say like a year then. Now that I think the hardest level, if I really try, it's quite easy for me to say is for like a level that I find easy. That usually has been like a month or 2 months. And at times just winning that 50 binds or winning that 100 binds or something, it's just that time. It's nothing more. It's just that it takes time to accumulate those successes. The problem with a new level you haven't beaten is it's not obvious what the problem is. The same with these lessons. We try to improve, we try to add, we try to get step forward. Sometimes it's not always obvious what the problem is. And if that problem is figured out, then sometimes it can go very rapidly afterwards. It's just there's sometimes these blocks or resistance, like a hump to get over that thing. Sometimes it can feel like months and months of seeking where doesn't seem to be any progress. Then suddenly something starts to become more clear and things can take off. I feel like my poker is exactly the same. Overall, I feel like my life is happier, or I'm taking more effort in my diet. Suddenly I'm happier, I'm playing better poker, things start going as I'd like them to. I wish I could give like a specific time. I feel like it's very individual. The main goal should be like however long it takes. If you feel like you're taking a step forward every day, then at some point after many steps, they tell it for marathon runners that all you have to do, however tough it is just take one more step. If you can take one more step, then you can run a marathon, essentially. That's what they say. The joke about it is, however hard it is, everyone should almost always be able to take one more step. I don't know if that's true. You could get injured where you can't really take even one more step. The point is, if things are not too bad, then even if you're very tired, one step seems quite doable. That's how I find motivation for myself in poker. For me, it's pressure to play. Every day could be a bad day. I could lose 10 days in a row, have to lose money and play in a worse games, all these things are impacted. There's pressure to do it. I find the way I do it is through that running, that you just have to take one step. Usually when I don't want to play poker, I set myself a very easy goal. Like, I'm only going to play 30 minutes. I'm going to play a level where I don't feel that I'm under too much pressure. Maybe if that's my normal level, I'll go one level lower. Now, that's very easy to do once you're already like some middling level where you can move up and down. Usually that helps me the most, I feel like, is when I set a very small goal. If I set like a 30 minutes or 1 hour goal, and if that's all, then I was too tired and I should rest that. If I wasn't too tired, then after that 30 minutes or 1 hour, I want to do more. It's like a train. If you've seen a heavy train, it takes so much time to get that train moving. That to me is like every day the first 30 minutes or an hour of playing poker. It just seems tough. Once it's starting to move, then I feel like my mind's working. Things are starting to make sense. And then usually it's way easier the second hour or third hour or onward from there. It's usually tough. Pretty much always the first 30 minutes is quite tough. It feels a little bit new every day to kind of warm the mind up to playing.
I thought about a lot of the stuff you talk about. It resonates with me. For me, if I want to put a time period on it, I want at least 6 months. I would feel much more confident in my abilities to manage the current level, move higher, risk more, is if I have 1 or 2 years actually of data to back my decision. And I would be much more confident in knowing that it's the moment. In the past, I was too optimistic a couple of times, and I had to move back every time. When I think about it, it was the right decision then to do that. Now the thing is, I have a voice in my head that says it's the right decision to do the opposite. I still want to be prudent and wait at least 6 months, maybe even more, just to be sure that I'm not, again, overconfident.
For me, I always found that I can go up fast because if I don't belong there, I'll just drop back down. It's going to be fine. That's the excuse I gave myself. Sometimes a lot of time was wasted in that way. I was being too urgent to move up. Then I really didn't even get time to settle in there because I just lost like the first 4, 5 or 10 times or whatever, and then had to move back down. Well, it's 10 times in a bigger game is 20 times in a lower game. It was then another time to work its way up. Maybe you're right that it would have been to get back up smooth, not be impatient, I guess. I feel like it's exciting, a new level. Everything's new. I want to see what it's like. Sometimes it's just can be confusing as well. Maybe better to like really, if you move, to be properly ready for it. I'm thinking of how people move in their real life. Some people are like that they move to a different town. They don't really settle in there, which means they still have to go back and forth between the two towns. They're friends, or maybe there's still some work they have to finish in their old place. It just can be much time goes into just moving around. Whereas maybe if they had waited a bit longer and moved when they're ready and they don't have to take a longer wait, then overall might be faster. I feel like as I've gotten older, I somehow find that I find it more and more scary to move up and more comfortable to stay where I'm at. I feel that's maturity in a way. I find it enjoyable now. When I was young, I found the enjoyment in getting to the next thing. Now, as older, I find the enjoyment in the routine. I find the enjoyment in, I know this level, I know what I'm doing, and I know I'm going to do well here. That certainty, that's really sometimes even more enjoyable than all the thrill and chaos that happens with setting new goals, new challenges. I feel like I've changed in this way somehow, that I'm somehow less ambitious maybe. Overall, it's just that it's not that the next thing will make me happy, but sometimes will make me happy if the current thing goes better and better.
I tell myself that what would be nice is if there's a certain abstraction between what you do and your immediate results. Because like in poker, when you look at big blinds, you have to make some mental gymnastic to find out what they're actually worth, how much money is on the table. The idea is just that if there would be more abstraction, it could auto-adapt actually to your skill, your ability to play. You would not know if you are now playing for 10 USD, 100, 1000, 10,000. You would just do the same because it's the right thing to do at the right moment. You would not be so dependent on the outcome. You would not have all that mental pressure of thinking, now because I'm on the next level, there's so much more on the line. Do you get a little what I'm saying? Does that make any sense to you?
I do. Sometimes poker may be in a different universe. It's a game like tennis or chess or some other sport, which money could come just from sponsors. You as a player, you would be like an athlete and just playing for the prizes. You wouldn't have to worry about that losing costs you in that way. Then again, imagine you're a chess player. You can enter a tournament. Maybe there's a small fee. Usually they can just enter if they have the rating for it. There's still expenses in traveling. If you don't get a certain result, let's say you're in game trials in Switzerland and you try to get to Olympic Games for discus throwing. Probably maybe Switzerland has just one place they could send to for that event. Maybe not the best example. I don't know exact systems. What I'm trying to say is there's some pressure, even if the game wasn't for money like poker is, even if it was just like professional sports people feel pressure in other activities just like poker players do. The same in a regular job. If you're a plumber, if the other competitors do a better job, you could go out of business and no one wants your plumbing service. Or if something happened to you, or maybe there's a new invention, AI comes, people don't want whatever service. I feel like there's pressure in everything, that it's not only in poker. I guess you could say maybe that's why kids learn so quickly. Because they can learn things, it seems at least, more pressure free. They can learn more things just as their curiosity and not have to think so much about results. At least maybe. I don't know. Even kids go to competitions. It's strange in that way. I guess the only thing with the pressure I can say is I try to not take on too much pressure. That would be too much for me. I'll just try to not overstress myself. Sometimes still happens. Sometimes someone says, hey, can you do this favor? I say, sure. Then it ends up being way tougher than you thought. Overall, I feel like there's pressure in everything in life. Sometimes I look at people who have a regular job, a boss, they seem more stressed to me. They seem more worried that they have to do something because their boss says so, or they could be fired, or how the economy will go. There's so many things people feel pressure about or worry about. At least in poker, I feel like it's somewhat in my control. I know I can't control the cards. It, to me, feels more or less manageable. Knowing you could be fired at any moment, that would be scarier than the pressure of risking money. Could be a different system. This way, you could once in a while play a play money poker game. I don't know if there's this game, Governor of Poker. That's the game I actually started learning poker with. It's not against real people. It's like a game where you're in Texas and you have to play some tournament games and then buy houses for that money. And then if you do well, you can move to another city in Texas. It's like a little game that you can play on your phone or computer. And like some days you don't want to play for money. It's good then to play on a play money game. Just practice that way. That's fine. I don't do that. Sometimes I play in a $1 game. With my level and knowledge in poker, feels essentially pressure-free. What I'm saying is I do similar things. I don't play exactly play money games. I sometimes play very small game, just so it's not always work in this way. It's a bit tiring sometimes if it's always the highest pressure stuff. Sometimes it's fun to play like a different game. That's one thing I recommend. Sometimes I play a poker game that I know I don't know, and I assume I'm gonna lose at it as well. It doesn't sound very rational. I feel like sometimes the mind needs irrational to stay sane. I feel like if I treat myself too much like a robot, then I just lose all joy for life. Sometimes I just want to do something, you could say, meaningless or random, just to have fun, just to sit, look at the cloud and not think about weather or physics or anything, look at clouds or watch a dumb TV show or just play some poker game for not a monetary reason. Actually, I remember playing against a player who told me they were a crypto something investor or something. They said for them, they lose some few hundred. They were very rich, at least they said so. That for them, every day, if they had a stressed day in markets, they come to poker and they lose a few hundred or a few thousand. For them, it's relaxing. It sounded very crazy to me. I guess in some way I can see that he's doing something, that the losses aren't maybe so bad as for him in the markets. He's not like doing it seriously as well. And maybe it does help to relax and take his mind off of that. But it's tough for me to know because I don't think usually about poker as it's relaxing. Usually I think of poker as work, and relaxing would be to play chess or to do anything else. For me, it's the other way. But for a lot of people, poker is their way to relax.
I have a trading journal. I write down my results in poker. Here's the thing. The amount I lose, actually, I think I can live with it. The thing that is hard, or the thing that keeps me prudent, that might be a very good thing actually, is that I say to myself how it is when you have to write down all your results all the time. There are days you get 2-3 losing trades, you push it off to the next day, just entering it in your book. You don't do it immediately because you still have some emotion with those trades, the results you just got.
I know that exactly. That when I have the biggest winning days, that's when I want to write it down as my new number there. When it's a losing day, you just want to make it disappear. Yes, exactly.
And the thing that I tell myself is, now, if you go to the next level, then the numbers you have to write down will be much bigger. And that usually makes me prudent and makes sure that I wait for 6 months or even a year or 2 years before I do that. It's not just the money, because somehow with the money I could live. It is the thing that I have to look at the results and I have to keep track of them and I have to enter them on a continuous basis. I cannot stop doing that. I don't want it to be too hard emotionally for me to do it, that I break, I will stop doing it. The only way to really manage that is with experience. It can get much easier to do it with time, because when I started playing poker, it was quite hard from time to time because I had so many losing games. It was quite hard to write them all down. Now, even if I'm still under my break, even it's not so hard anymore. Don't feel a lot of emotion actually writing them down. It's not just because you're playing just for one USD that there are no emotions in that one USD. It's quite magical how much emotion so little money can hold.
That is true, yes. What it brings my mind to is, let's say an example. Let's say someone does sports and it's like a swimmer. How much of their time are they actually swimming for competition, where the results are tracked and matter? How much time is the practice time where they're just swimming, or how much time are they just in the pool trying some new stuff out where it's not being tried? Then the competition, that happens sometimes. It's not like every time they swim, it's competition. I feel like the danger is that if every time you play poker, it's tracked and competition, it's like trying to become a good swimmer where you don't take practices, you only go to competitions. I don't think that's the way. Otherwise, why even have practice? You could just make a competition every day. There's something to play time, which is less pressure. You could say these lessons are this in a way, because we're reviewing hands, don't actually have like an immediate win or loss at this particular moment. My general thought is that's good that there's times where you can do the serious thing less seriously. That's important. There's times where you can just be having fun with this and exploring. You could say that's like an exploration in a way. Like if you're working, that's very rigid and you're very grounded in what you can do and what you can't do. Very systems. If you're taking that swimming example, if you just jump in a pool, just swim randomly there with no actual goal, maybe chase your friend in the pool or try to make a twirl there or like jump out of the water or jump into the water. They help someone become a better swimmer or feel more comfortable in water, even though they're not like a specific thing in this way. This play thing is important also.
The idea of gamify the experience is interesting. I don't know how much you can do it. I find it interesting. Norman, we talked a lot about it.
I'm very talkative today. I don't know how, but somehow.
That's great. I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom in what you say. I'll try to think about it some more. How about today? Do you have anything planned? Is there anything on your mind you would like to do? Or do we take a look at a couple of hands I have written down? It's not a priority. We can really do whatever you want.
Remember what we did last time? And you said you would like to do it a few more times.
Yeah, I found that was very interesting looking at other people play, not just at my decisions.
One thing I had in mind for today was to continue that.
You want me to pick a game? We do the same?
Let's start with the hand you marked. Let's start with that.
You will take all the lesson, Norman. Half of them. Then we won't be able to look at the other players.
That's okay. We'll do that another time. It's been a few weeks since we've reviewed hands that you marked.
If you think it's more important, then let's do that. It's just, as you said, I enjoyed looking at other people, thinking about them, because it goes along with what you try to teach me right now, to pay more attention on what happens on the big poker table.
The great thing is we can still practice it a little bit, even reviewing your hand. I would like to do that for today. Already looks like a great situation. 5 players left. You're the chip leader. Everyone else is very similar stack sizes. In theory, they should be quite cautious here, but in practice, they're not going to be too cautious. That's what I would say. In theory, you should be able to put a lot of pressure on people here. In practice, people will play more or less normally, most people.
Yeah, I remember what happened. Let's see.
For me, I feel it's close. I can look what the machine says. Machine would call this. I know that machine would imagine player 6 to be much looser than they actually are. Player 6 will be much tighter than the machine would be.
I think the machine would also play it, but you say it's quite close, which is surprising to me.
Because player 6 I imagine to be tighter as an average player. This is the first hand I've seen of player 6. If I had played them the whole tournament, maybe I would have a different read.
If player 6 would play the range he would play, then I would be confident in playing my hands.
Yes, exactly. I agree. I'll put it in a machine quickly. So I sent you what they should go all in and what you should call. Let's start with what you should call. Only very short row there, just 3 different hands there. Could you read them out?
I'm on the button and I should call with 8.7% of my hands. 7 plus, ace 9 suited and ace 10 offsuit plus, ace 10 offsuit plus. My range is actually under the gun range. Not exactly. It's even tighter than that.
Someone's all in. We have to be tight. Even though they go all in for 8 big blinds, it's still an all in. You see here what the machine would go all in with cutoffs hands. Look at some of the weakest hands that would go all in from machine.
Now, the first hand, ace x king 5 suited. Ace x is an x after that.
X means the other card could be any card.
And why is it not written x and then plus king 5 suited? Why is there no plus in between both of them?
Good question. I guess it could be written as a2 plus. Just to make it shorter, people write in this way. Maybe it would be more beautiful if it was just ace plus, just one ace plus.
We are talking about 2 hands, ace x king 5 suited. There is no plus between them. Between the other hands, there's always a plus. That's just strange to me.
Because all the other hands, like what does the 2s plus mean? It means 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and so on. If it was ace 2, you would want to put a plus on that.
I get it now, Norman. It's just that ace X is actually A2 plus. Instead of writing all that, they abbreviated X.
Exactly.
Jack 10 offsuit is quite loose. 9-7 suited, not so much, but 8-7 suited is also really loose. Probably a lot of those hands he doesn't play. I really don't know how tight their 6 is. I should even play ace 10 off a little less. There's not much room, actually. You did put only the 5.57. You didn't put an all-in. Or did you put an all-in? You did put an all-in. Okay. Effectively, he is an all-in. It's just strange that he didn't do the all-in, that he just bet 3/4 of his stack.
I would fold ace jack here.
You would fold?
I would. Seeing the machine makes me even more confident in folding.
Because the machine does give you much room. We must assume that he's tighter than that.
Exactly, yes. And one thing I'm starting to recognize here is what doesn't give us a lot of room is that there's small blind and big blind also. If you were the big blind with this hand, I would be more leaning towards a call then. Even though it doesn't seem too big of a difference, sometimes you call here and then big blind has ace queen and calls, or pocket nines and calls. There's this worry as well that we have 3 opponents here. One of them's all in, but we have 3 opponents. And already with the first opponent, is our hand better than player 6? A little bit. I don't think a lot better. A little bit better than what their average hand is. Then we have 2 more opponents. I know they have random cards. It still brings some risk. Finally, I would add this in. We don't actually need this all in. That's the last thing I would say on this hand. Because if you lose this all, you would have 9 big blinds, which would put you in the pack with everyone else. Player 6 would be chip lead, which suddenly means you could get 5th, you could get 4th, you could get 3rd. All these things could happen. If you here fold, player 6 wins maybe this pot, maybe someone calls, maybe not. You'd still be a big chip leader on the table. For me, that's the final detail in this hand. Those 2 things. One is that we're button, we're not big blind. And second detail is if you win this, great, you're even a bigger chip leader. Now, as this tournament is, maybe it's too optimistic. If I was in this situation, I feel like second place is almost guaranteed. Maybe it's a bit optimistic. To me, how the chips are, you have 17, everyone else has 8. To me, it feels like you're at worst going to be sometimes 3rd. Usually you're going to be 1st or 2nd this tournament. This hand doesn't really help so much with this. To me, it seems it's certainly close. Someone who was more machine-minded would say, of course, machine says ace 10 off, you have to call. But I'm being honest here of how I would play. Maybe in game I would call if player 6 is looser, or maybe I misevaluate the situation. Actually, I'm surprised a little. I would have thought machine to be a bit more loose here as button. Seeing that pocket 6's machine folds, ace 8 suited it folds, ace 9 off it folds. If even machine is being so rigid, then that worries me. That it's not an amazing spot for ace jack. Did we exhaust this hand?
Norman, we did. I did what you recommend. I did fold this hand. My main reason why I did it is because I had 17.03 big blinds. I thought you just went through it. The last argument you bring forth. I thought that I don't really need the gamble. It's a little sad. If I lose my first spot, then who knows, maybe I won't even enter the bubble, get a reward. While folding, I knew that mathematically I should call. I didn't ask the machine because I don't know how to do it. I don't have time to do it. I knew that mathematically I should call. It's just an intuition. Just like on the piano, when you're good enough, sometimes you make mistakes. The mistakes sound nice because you don't make any mistakes. You make mistakes that still could be somewhat acceptable. Here's the same. You get an intuition for it. I didn't ask the machine, but I knew that normally I should call. The machine would tell me to call. I thought that the gamble was not necessary. It would be sad to lose my first spot. I did fold.
I have to say this sounds quite impressive. I don't think a lot of people would have this intuition about this situation. Another thing that comes to mind is
Norman, just interrupt you because I will forget. You're an excellent teacher. Since we do such good work over a very long period of time, I try to pay attention to what you teach. I get a feeling for it. Just like on the piano, if you play long enough, you get a feeling of what notes you can play and what totally wrong, harmonically not acceptable. Then when you do mistakes, you start doing nice mistakes. That sound not too bad. But without your teaching, I would never be able to have that feeling. It's nice to know that even if I can't ask the machine, I still know some of the stuff the machine would put out.
Thank you. I really like your comparison with music. I'm not super learned or anything with music. I do see poker in this way, actually. I see a lot of this harmony. I see the rhythm to it. I see how aggression can grow in them, or someone can grow more impatient, then suddenly explode because they feel like that's their time. They now gonna have to make their big move. I don't have a good way of explaining it. It's difficult to describe music to someone who doesn't know it. Just the way the table circles with the blinds, and then the positions and the players, then those different characters, which we observed last time as well, that what the players do, paying attention to it. Then at some point, I would compare it a little bit to a friend group, that if you get a bunch of people together, or it could be a family, a school classroom, any place where there's a group of people together, if you know these people, then you can sometimes anticipate what sort of interactions will happen. You can anticipate that those two things will start to argue. Sometimes if you know the people, these two will get into a conflict. Those three, they will laugh and talk with each other the whole evening. You just know these people, and if you've seen them before, you can have a pretty good, obviously you can't predict all of it. There's some rhythm, some melody in a way, how these things play out. With social interactions, with poker, I do see that. I see it within myself as being part of that as well, being the annoying one sometimes, or I'm being the tight one sometimes, or sometimes the very aggressive loose one, or sometimes I don't like the player who's playing against me. I find that difficult. These things that happen. The whole thing I wanted to say is this musical connection. I like to listen to music. I have learned a little bit of these instruments. Not that I'm very good at any of them. I know a little bit of it, and I see some similarities to it. And also with the theory. With the theory that once you learn it more, you can start to, something fits into the system. You were describing how if you don't know the correct note, you will know some notes that could be correct. Maybe they don't entirely fit with the piece of the music. Then some notes you would be even ridiculous to even consider that these notes would go there in that piece of music. That's what you were describing. And that's great if you get that more in poker. I feel like beginners are often looking for binary advice, this or that. To me, it's often like some spots are 55-45, some are like 80-20, some spots are like 99 and 1-1. Usually there's some harmony, which means there's some room, there's some possibilities. It's not always that there's only one option in every scenario.
My idea was that you get a feeling of what the machine would recommend, how you play it, because you're not a machine. A lot of what we're talking about is, for me, not being too much a machine, learning to look at the other people. In every art form, that's actually the case. Poker is an art form. You get a feeling for the game and for what is correct and what is a mistake. Even a good cook gets a feeling of which ingredient will do great on a dish, what to add or what to subtract, or what is not good regarding quality, how to get a better product instead. A good cook does the same. He has a feeling of what will be pleasant in the end to eat. A painter is the same. Everybody who does something that is real, in my opinion, that is what I call an art, gets that. The only things I'm not sure are really art forms are academic stuff. Is there a lot of art in them? Do you get better with time? Do you get a feeling of what is correct? for example, history, I'm not sure that you can develop that kind of intuition towards it. The only intuition that you get is what will be banned because people don't want to listen to it. It's a nice thing when you start doing that and you get better at it. It's pleasant on the piano, it's pleasant on a poker table. Should we look at the next hand?
Yes, interesting hand.
Thank you, Norman. So I see a flop. There's a risk of a flush. If he has a club or anything, I don't have much hope. And he called my 2 big blinds. I just check. He checks also, which is a good sign. Now we see a 7. I want to see how he reacts. I went for 1 big blind, which I don't do often, but here I thought 1 big blind is still some pressure with his 8 left, and I want just to see how he reacts. He folded.
These are tricky situations, right? I'll start with something quite in general, which is that these monotone boards that they're called, with cards all the same suit, are actually considered quite static boards. If you remember this talk we've had about wet and dry boards, or also called static or dynamic boards, then usually the wet boards are boards which have a lot of draws, and these are dynamic boards. That essentially means that the hand strength can rapidly change on turns and rivers. I'm looking for those words of static and dynamic. These would be the dynamic boards. At first glance, a lot of people think of this as a dynamic board because it looks like a board similar to boards with straight draws and flush draws. It's actually a little bit different. Before I explain why, I will say this, that what's a usual example of a static board? Like a usual example would be something like Ace-7-2 or King-3-3. Like these boards, especially if there's no flush draw on it and there's no straight draws on it, it doesn't really matter what comes on the turn or river. If the board is Ace-7-2, what scary cards can really come for you if you have Ace-King or if you have pocket aces or pocket sevens? Of course, yes, there could be some very specific rare occurrences, but 95%, if you have Ace-King on Ace-7-2, you won the hand whatever happens on turn or river. Or if the board is King-3-3 and you have a 3, you have 3 of a kind, the hand's over at that point. If the board's like Jack-9-8 with a flush draw, you could have 2 pairs, you could still be losing if someone hits their straight draw, hits their flush draw. There's more things to worry about. That's the general theme or topic of static and dynamic boards. This board's quite static. And the reason for it is if you had the flush, especially if you had the best flush, then it doesn't matter what comes on the turn or river. If you don't have the flush, then board becomes more dynamic. Then if you have a queen here, or if you have a 10, suddenly it's quite dynamic. Maybe in a way you could say it's both. This hand could be very fixed or very changing based on what you have. Like if you have the ace high, king high flush here, then the turn and river card 95% would be meaningless. You would know the hand is already over to begin with. Anything less, which you have a hand here like a 10, the biggest error with that can happen is to overvalue that. With 10, you have good thing. I don't think you're going to overvalue a 10. Even a queen here, people get in a lot of trouble just holding on to top pair. Let's say you have a queen with a black card next to it. You have a king, queen of spades. If someone has a club or has 2 clubs, your hand would have 0 hope against the flush there. To summarize then, these boards are these special type of boards that maybe we have to take more special effort to look at someday. Actually, great thing in Poker Tracker is we could filter for monotone boards. Maybe one day we'll do that. I'll make a note of that. We'll have a lesson where we review just hands where it's boards flops with 3 of the same card. First thing is to be cautious. Second thing is you wouldn't want to bet too often on these boards. And third thing is the big error people do is they try to start protecting their hand. Like they start protecting a queen here. try to make very big bets. That's where it's very dangerous to do this way. That's the bigger point of what I'm trying to describe here. Now with your 10, if I analyze how you specifically played this, I like that you didn't bet on the flop. Certainly with third pair, I really like that you slowed down there. Good news, the other player didn't bet either. Now on this turn card, you're in this situation where it seems like your hands, but we really don't want to risk anything with our hand. We really don't want to even do a half pot bet, because if he calls, we could be quite worried that he might have a jack. He could have a lot of stuff. He could even have a flush that he's been tricky with. What I like about your one bet chip here is it's a very small risk, and you're not trying to force him off the hand. You're just trying to put him in a difficult situation if he has no club or has a very low club, which he might have. He sometimes might have pocket threes with a club, or might have like an ace-8 type of hand, ace-8, no club, or these sorts of things. I think your play is quite cool here. It's creative. I actually really like it that you came up with something non-standard on the spot that made sense to you. I think ace-10 with your hand, we like it here, because we can't call a half pot bet. Their hand's not strong enough. If we don't bet here, then if he makes any considerable bet, the hand, did I cut off there, or do you still hear me?
I hear you. It did cut off. I didn't hear everything you said. It's like 1 minute missing.
I was saying how we're in a spot where hand's not strong enough to call even like a half pot bet. If we had not bet this turn, he bets, you should fold then. It would feel a bit sad to check twice and just fold. Hand doesn't seem so bad. I think you found a good solution to keep yourself in the hand. With minimal risk, your play isn't so much to make him fold. It's just so that you won't have to fold this turn. And I think that's great, actually. And this time he folded even, which is even a bonus. But I think the better thing here is, even if he doesn't fold, you can see the river. And there's some good rivers for you. The king, an ace, a 10, even a non-club low card's pretty good. I like that you didn't risk more. These are my two things. Your hand's not strong enough to risk anything more here. I see it as a protection bet. You bet to not have to fold. That's very crafty.
I didn't actually do it because of that. I'm not sure I really understand what you are teaching me. The thing is, I did it because this board should be quite dangerous for him. I'm not sure he wants to stick around, see what happens. I thought if he has a flush or anything else, well, then he might do an all-in. I know that I'm better off just folding. I thought it makes sense to do that, or that I could get some valuable information out of it. I did think it is scary. Because it is scary, he is already at 9 big blinds. I'm not sure he wants to stick around. I thought there was a chance of him folding, because I know that he should be in his mind, can I win that from time to time enough to put 1 big blind on the table? I don't think he goes through that kind of thinking. I thought there was a chance he might fold, or he just shows a lot of strength. In both cases, I would get something out of it. You said that the reason why I did it is because I didn't want him to bet. Is that what you said?
You don't want to fold your hand. You'd have to if he bet.
What bet do you mean?
If he bets, you'd have to fold to avoid that.
I take the initiative, so he doesn't do it.
Well, you said a comfortable price for your hand in this situation, because he would likely bet half pot. You said an acceptable price for your hand strength in given the circumstances.
I know that. I'm first to act. He's in position. If he goes half pot, then I will have to fold.
I'm trying to say that there's 2 plays I would be debating here: to check or to bet very small like you did. One thing that has benefit for a small bet is you will have to fold less often by doing this small bet than if you check this turn. Because if you check this turn, there will be times where he will bet more than 1 big blind, and your hand really can't stand any bigger bets than this.
Now I get it. If he has jack, a queen, and he goes for half pot, then I will have to fold. And with a 10 and a 7, he shouldn't do anything. If he has a straight draw or a flush draw, then there's a chance he bets half pot. In every case, I have to fold. By playing one big blind, I see if he just calls or if he increases. If he increases, well, then I fold. You said it's smart because I put the maximum on the table that I can risk. I agree with that. That I understand perfectly. I'm not sure how he will react to it. For me, it's just the board should be scary to him if he has nothing. Because of that, I thought he would fold. There's a chance he will fold. Do I get everything or am I missing something, Norman?
It's quite good how you get it. This is a complicated subject. We'll have more time. I did note it down already. We'll spend more time on monotone boards in the future. What I would say is I can see you're a writer because you gave a very good summary actually of some of the key elements to it. He can still do whatever after you bet. It's way more common for him to accept your bet than to go for a new re-raise, reopen the action. Whereas if you don't bet at all here, he might see that as very weak, sometimes bluff you off and make you fold this turn, essentially.
That I understand perfectly. Thank you, Norman. Okay, let's go to the third hand. Then there's one more.
Great. Nice hand. Looks like a middle stage of a tournament. We're at 25 big blinds. We have a decision here. Now, that's another thing. One thing is learning about opponents. Other thing I want to teach you is monotone boards. I'll make note of this list. Learning opponents. And then the other thing is comparing options, which I find very helpful when playing poker. How my mind works here is, I guess you could say 3-4 options, depends how you classify them. You can fold, you can call, you can re-raise non-all-in, then you can go all-in. In my mind, these are like the 4 options here. What are the options you think I'm debating between? 2 options here are clearly better than the other one.
You don't want to fold, that's for sure.
Exactly. That would be clearly a mistake.
So you are debating on just calling or re-raising. You don't want to do an all-in.
Actually, in this case, I would prefer the all-in to put maximum pressure on other players. That's a different topic. The issue here is if you don't raise non-all-in, well, how big would you raise? You would raise close to, if you raise to 6, they're going to continue very often. I don't think we want that with 4s. I don't think there's benefit in raising to 6.
Go to 5x.
Okay, that's 10.
Yes.
Then it could still go those awkward ways where what if they call or what if they go all? Because they go all in, you fold. It's a lot. You already put 40% of your chips in the middle. Then you fold, maybe had ace king a 50-50 hand. To me, that's a bit awkward. What if he calls? And then you see a flop? I guess that's not the worst thing. I don't think it's horrible. It's just a bit unconventional to raise 40% of your chips. It actually might be even sort of nice. I like the all-in because let's say they have ace, jack, or king, queen. I want those hands to fold. But if you go 5 times, I think that's where they call ace, jack. That's where they call ace, 10, king, queen, king, jack. And then they have a decent chance to connect something on the flop and beat our 4s. That's what I like about the all-in, is unless they have a very good hand, you're going to push them off and you're going to win this huge pot. It's 8 big blinds. This is like an all-in almost, winning 8 big blinds. If they're reasonable players, they should fold quite often. You win this pot. The good news is even if you get called, if they don't have a pair, you have a 50-50 chance. If they call you with ace king, queen, ace jack, it's a 50-50 gamble. You know me. What choice do I like here? Do I like the all-in or do I like the call?
You like the call.
Exactly. Less risk, isn't dependent on what the opponents do. All-in, sometimes they have aces and you just ruined your whole tournament. We can very comfortably call here. I would say it's something like 70-30 here. All-in or re-raising has a lot of merits here. The reason why I'm thinking of re-raise here is it's a big pot and there's a decent chance we have the best hand at this moment. That makes the re-raise really a play here.
If I had only one opponent, then I would like to do my 5x or the all-in. Both of them would be very attractive, in my opinion. Since I have 3 opponents, I do not think that they will all 3 fold, that they are wise enough, that they have enough experience of the game to fold. Because when I go all in, it's not that I want to gamble, I want them to fold. With those 3 guys, I just don't think they will fold all 3. If I'm lucky,
Yeah.
2 of them fold, not 3. I would be surprised if they all certainly say, I'm not gambling. Player 5, he can afford a gamble without being out of the game.
Exactly. You make very good points here. In theory, we should only worry about player 1. Because in theory, how can player 2 or player 5 call an all-in? Because if they had a good hand, they would have re-raised themselves already. In theory, that's what makes it less pressure. In real life, I do sometimes player 2 has a hand and will call, and they didn't re-raise. And same with player 5. In reality, all 3 of them can call. So I agree with you, and that's why we're not in a desperate need to win this hand. It's a good opportunity to have this in mind, because why even to have this comparison? Because there might be a tournament where it actually becomes the best play for whatever reason. Maybe you think they're very tight versus all ends. Maybe you think they're have very weak hands, because you've seen that if they had sometimes in the specific circumstance, things could change where player 5 would have less chips or something like that. That's why it was worthwhile to discuss it. But overall, going all in would be way too risky and gambling.
The issue is, you said that if I do an all-in, I get a 50% chance of winning. I agree with that. So it's a gamble. The thing is, I'm not sure that I actually will get that 50%, because from time to time, player 1 thinks he's strong enough for my all-in and he calls, and 2 or 5, one of them has jacks, queens, kings, or aces. He doesn't want to fold. Then I'm facing 2 opponents. Then I don't have any more a 50% chance of winning.
Very good. I would say this is exactly the things you have to worry about as a good tournament player. I agree.
Great. Thank you, Norman.
Another monotone board. How nice. We just wanted to discuss more of them. The big thing to realize here is we have like 7-2 offsuit here. We shouldn't overvalue our force because of our spade, because it's such a low spade here. A spade that's valuable with 3 opponents would be something jack or better spade. The 4 of spades, essentially, I'm looking how this hand can get interesting, because at the moment it seems like a clear fold. Let's see how it develops. We hit a 4. If we're thinking of their hands now, we might start to wonder, well, doesn't look like they have our 4 speed here. Don't think they have a king. Don't think they have a flush. An 8, people don't play 8 very often. Maybe we would have heard of an 8 already. Now, if you want to do another 1 chip bet, your hand's worth 1 chip or maybe 2 chips. It's similar to our last hand that we looked at. Our hand's certainly not valuable enough for half pot here.
I agree with that, Norman, up to a certain extent. Last time I was only facing 1 opponent. Now, the situation is way worse.
Exactly.
So 1 big blind wouldn't have the same effect, because if he has an 8, if he has a flush draw, I don't think he will fold a flush draw, and I don't think he will fold an 8 with 1. And if he has pocket 3s, I don't think he will fold also. It's very unlikely that 3 of them will fold. We were already surprised when 1 did fold because of 1 big blind.
That's the disconnect here, Titus. I'm not expecting folds. I would do that just because that's a price that seems fair for your hand at this point, that you won't have to fold, so that someone else won't bet half pot with an 8 or their flush draw. It's just that I see this turn as a very safe card, especially as it checked on the flop.
I agree with that. I thought the same when I was playing it.
I don't think everyone will fold. Maybe 1, at best 2 will fold. The thing is, it's fine. It's just that even if they don't fold, I feel like your hand is worth for 1 chip to see the river here with that 1 or 2 opponent. I think that will be fine. And if they have an 8, it's fine to lose that 1 chip to that 8. You could say it's worse compared to last spot. If this time you didn't go for it, it's reasonable. I would bet here a small bet this hand as well.
Thank you for letting me know. He goes for 1.
I think doesn't matter who does it, it's fair price for it. It's normal. Do we get 1 fold? We do get 1 fold. The question is...
I cannot fold this because sometimes he's just bluffing. I could still make a 4, have 3 of a kind. I could make a flush, it wouldn't be worth much. Why can I not fold? It's just because it's too little. And there's a chance that I win that from time to time and that I get my money back. Is that correct?
Exactly. The thing is, you were risking 1 chip. If you win this 1 in 10 times, you would make a profit.
That's possible.
It's possible, exactly. Especially, they don't look to have a good hand either. It looks like they at best have an 8 here.
If you would have gone for half pot or all in, then it would be very different. Half pot or pot, then it would be different. As you say, they don't look as if they have a good hand. Okay, thank you, Norman.
Last thing, it's fine. If we have 5 big blinds, 1 big blind is a lot. You have 24 before this. Now you have 23. It's meaningful. I want to highlight the fact that you have some chips to gamble with, essentially.
I agree, Norman. Thank you. Now, we make a flush, which is nice. It is still scary. Let's see what he does.
Exactly.
He goes again with his 1 big blind.
I don't love it. I would call. I feel like we're losing this almost always. The thing is, the pod odds say you should call it if you can win it. 7%. It's possible. It's close, really. I would call this.
Player 5 could be very sneaky. We know that.
But it's if 1 in 10 times they have a bad hand.
Would he bluff with that? Is that a good place to bluff, Norman?
Oh, I believe him. He has a better hand. Is it 1 in 10 times that he doesn't?
I have no more chance to improve. It's over for us.
Sometimes he has just an 8, just a red 8 with no spade. He's betting 1.
At our level, yes, it's possible. At higher level, I'm not sure about it. At our level, it's possible. I did call. We have 1 more call.
That's scary. You will lose this hand almost always. You risk very little. It's reasonable. I like this. You see, you got it here. He didn't have it. He had just a king. This is such a great hand.
But a king is still a very strong hand. It was 3 of a kind. He was prudent. Maybe he wanted just to make more money with his king. He was scared that I fold. I don't know. The thing is, if he would have gone all in, I would have folded this. I don't know if his decision to only bet 1 big blind was smart. It was smart if he was scared of a flush. Yes, it could be smart. It was very unlikely that a win did happen. What is your remark?
I don't think he played it correctly on the turn. On the turn, it was quite obvious that he had the best hand. No one bet the flop. Now we see the turn. He has 3 of a kind. He has to bet a little more to put more pressure on exactly the type of hands like yours. He can't fold out the spade. He could have folded out 4 of spade. So he should have bet at least third zero or half pot zero.
Why did he not? Why did he not bet half pot? He did not bet half pot because he liked his king too much. Can I jump to that conclusion? Or because he was too scared of a flush?
I don't know him. If I had to guess, he was scared. I don't know.
Okay, this is the last hand. Queen 8 offsuit.
An interesting hand. I do like that you limp it. Let's carry on. I assume you limp it. You shouldn't call a raise. I would limp here. I like that you're being more comfortable in these multi-way situations. Now, there's an option here not to fold. Folding is not an option here. The option is to bet or not to bet. I would lean towards not to bet. The reason is they're not all gonna fold. We're gonna have to slow down. We're going to have to slow down on many cards, on an ace, a king, a jack, a spade. And we don't have like a super good queen. We don't have a ace, queen, king, queen. We just have queen 8. Our hand not be active. If you want to bet 1 chip, again, I say 1 chip's acceptable here. I wouldn't really want to bet like proper bet. Not because your hand's not worth half pot. Your hand is worth half pot. I'm just worried what will happen afterwards.
Okay, Nolan, I'm still here. You don't want me to bet?
1 chip is fine here. I don't want you to bet half pot here. Did you understand why I don't like half pot bets here?
You don't like it because I'm facing 3 opponents. There's a risk of a flush.
I'm not worried of the flop. I'm worried what will happen turn and river here. I don't want this to be a big pot. That's why I don't like to be the aggressive side on this. This happens often here. Let's say you get your best turn. Not an 8 or a queen, but let's say you get like a 4 on the turn. Would you still feel good about your queen 8 with 2 opponents? I would already be worried. But on a king now you should be extremely worried. I think it's time to slow down and check the turn. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you look at his bet here, or the sizing of his bet?
Well, either he has a straight or he just made the king.
It looks big. It looks like a strong bet. The problem is, if he has a spade, he has good chances. If he has a straight, we're dead. If he has a king, we're almost dead. It's a fold now. I believe in the fold. This hand was, I would say, a small mistake to bet strong on the flop with many opponents going first, just being on the flop with a top pair, but a very vulnerable top pair. That's the detail I'm trying to communicate with that hand, that you're out of position, many opponents, just the flop, the top pair is very shaky and vulnerable. When that's the case, that's where I would maybe bet one chip. That's fine. In general, I don't want to start betting half pot when I don't like where it's going to go on turns and rivers.
Awesome, Nom. It was a very interesting lesson. I really enjoyed it. The more we do it, the more interesting it is, the more fun we have with it. Thank you a lot for your time and effort, as always. If there's nothing you want to add, let's stop here because I have to go to the bathroom. I'm looking forward to see you next week. I wish you the best until then. Any final words? I hope the weather is all right with you. I'm sure it's much colder at your place because it's the case where I am. You're quite used to the winter. You enjoy the winter. Do you already have snow? Okay.